Thank you so much for making the time to come out. I know it's close to lunch and there are lots of exciting programs that you guys could join. So it means a lot that you decided to come and join us here. Super excited to talk to you today about what we're doing with product data enrichment and analytics. My name is Brandon Warshaw, longtime analytics and insights guy from the CPG industry, ex-Nielsen, ex-GSK, ex-PepsiCo, and now proud to be talking about Harmonya here today. With me today, I have Tyler Buttle, who I will let introduce himself.
Yeah, perfect. Welcome. Thank you for coming and thank you for being here. My name is Tyler Buttle and I'm a group director at Coca-Cola. I lead what we call our sales analytics and technology team. The way I think about that is all things data run through us for Walmart and Sam's Club across the globe. And so I've got a team that specializes in a number of things. And so I'll take us a little bit today. What we'll do is I'll walk through a bit of the journey that our team has been on and some of the things that we're feeling, I think, as an industry, in all honesty, and how partnering with Harmonya has unlocked some opportunities for us and helped us close some of the challenges that we face as a team. So I like to think a little bit about, so I'll kick off, walk through it, and we'll go back and forth as how this will work out today. But we've gotten past the point of big data, right? We've gone from big data sets of 1 or 2 billion rows, and we're in the hundreds of billions of rows right now. And so there's a lot of data out there. You think about what this looks like. So I like to think about we've gone past the phase of big data and we're in the phase of humongous data. And sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming with what that means and what we've got to go do with that data. And so sometimes it feels a little bit like this, of kind of our brains exploding of how do I go get all the information that I need to? So you couple that kind of challenge that we run into with another challenge, which is, and by the way, we're all super busy. And you think about the requests, the questions, the information that you're being asked to go do. You think about all of the stakeholders that you have around, hey, I've got to meet my company objectives. I got to meet my buyer objectives. I've got to understand the strategy. And then, by the way, I've also got to be an expert in a whole list of tools to help me do my job well. And when you think about that, coupled with the arduous schedule of being able to work through, hey, I've got to do category, I've got to relay, I've got resets, I've got remodels, I've got strategy, I've got line review. There's a whole list of things that happen here. And this is real. And I think we all feel it. So here's the other piece. And so the way we think about it is everything's going to be just fine, right? It's going to be okay. But here's the other piece that's happening as we talk about data and we talk about big data or humongous data is what I have observed that as we increase the amount of data available to us. So if we were to plot it, you can't tell I'm in analytics. So this is what I do, right? Put it on a graph. The amount of data available continues to increase. And in the future, there's not going to be less data available. There will only be more data available. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that for folks like us, we're going to get more questions. And every question is going to be expected to have some sort of data-backed approach to say, give me the data around the questions or help me understand the questions through the data. And so what we see here is this continues to grow. But what happens to our resourcing? This is how this happens, or it might even be going down, right? And this is real. So what we're trying to solve on my team is this gap between the amount of data available and the amount of resourcing that we have to go work through. And so we recognize, look, I'll be honest, at Coca-Cola, like resources are flat to down. That's how it's going to operate. Probably going to operate like that in the future. But the other thing that's happening in conjunction with this is our retailer complexity continues to increase, right? So you think about, I previously advised on the sparkling soda desk. It's store-specific mods for all of Walmart with store-specific assortments, store-specific layouts. We had something like 6,500. There were multiple mods per store. You get into a complex environment, and the expectation is that, by the way, you get it right all the time, right? That's the expectation. And so for us, what we think about is the retail, both the retailer as well as the retail, meaning the shopper, the consumer, the expectations continue to rise. And we've got to go figure out how to solve this gap. And so for us, as we think about what this looks like in the world that we face, what we've tried to work through is the data, again, I've walked through this, but the data increasingly fragmented, silo. We got lots of tools and capabilities. We've got to figure out how to make sense of the data to figure out a strategy and what we're going to do with that strategy. We then got to go work and realize that resources are not going to be increasing. So we got to solve this gap. And so the way I think about this for my team is I push and they get tired of hearing it. Jay on my team will recognize this, but we focus on speed to insight. So the question for me is, hey, look, I still have to get the same number of insights, but how in the world do I speed up the process of finding the insights that I need to have? And so this is where Harmonya comes in, and we've had a really great partnership with, oh yeah, that's how we feel. Everything's fine. It's going to be okay. This is where the partnership with Coca-Cola and Harmonya has come in, is our goal is to go solve this gap that has been created between the amount of data available and the resourcing gap. And we recognize that for us, the way that we think about it at Coca-Cola is it's our ability to drive our speed to insight needs to accelerate. That's what we're trying to solve for. And so I'll let Brandon walk through a few of how this works and what Harmonya is, and then we'll go back and forth and work through a use case. But I like to highlight this. This is what we're trying to solve for, is this.
Thanks, Tyler. So everything that we do starts with the product, right? That's why we're all here. We've all got products. Either we're making them, we're selling them, we're trying to connect with consumers, shoppers, and people. And as an industry, we've been working for decades with these lovely categorical, hierarchical, static constructs. Each of us has our own. We have retailer constructs, we have syndicated data constructs, and it's how we think about products and where they belong. But where the products belong in the data versus where the products belong in consumers' lives is different. And what Harmonya is bringing to life is the actual characteristics of the products at a more granular and atomic level. So we can connect as an industry with people in ways that products matter to them. And this information is there. It's out there. People are experiencing it. It's actually informing decisions. But it's not in the data sets that we use today consistently. So everything that we've developed here is to get to that differentiated insight faster, because typically the way that you would get to this level of rich and robust attribution would be through like a manual mapping exercise, doing a little bit of Googling and trying to figure out what the products are all about. There's a lot of subjectivity. It's really an individual exercise. So we're leveraging AI, natural language processing, machine learning to streamline that process and make it available consistently across the data sets that our customers and partners work with. We work from a data foundation agnostic standpoint. So you have a universe of products, you have sales data, you have things that you use to manage your business today. We want to sit alongside that. We're a proud partner of the Nielsen Connect program. We work with many retailer and other syndicated data sets. So we like to be where the data is and where you guys are focused already. The way that we do this, starting out, we go to individual retail product pages. There's a ton of really rich information here. Titles, descriptions, ingredients, attribute lists, as well as the long-form consumer reviews. So all of this available at the individual item there, publicly available. And we see the same products showing up across multiple platforms. But at the end of the day, it's a single product there. So we create that single product understanding, and we do that at scale. So we know this can of Coke, and we know what's around it, and we know what else is in the portfolio, and we understand how all of these products interact in a common space in the way that you guys define the category. As we do this, as we collect all of this really rich information, this is where the exciting stuff comes in with AI, to understand exactly where these unique concepts about products are showing up. I know this is one of the more subtle visuals, but you can see we've highlighted different aspects of this specific product, and we do this at scale across the categories we work in. What we end up with is for each individual product, this universe of relevant attributes and characteristics. And we pair this with your data, the idea being that there are activities, events, occasions, claims, benefits, flavors, textures, hair types, medical concerns, health conditions. I will exhaust the day if I go through all of them, But the important thing here is that for your category in the context of your products, that's where we're focused on illuminating and bringing to full color. We do that with your data. So we marry it to the sales data that you guys use to manage your business. We do that at scale. Again, data foundation agnostic. We have a platform that we can offer the combined data to you to make it easy to interact with. And we also are able to just provide you raw data feeds if you are a more advanced, technology-oriented organization and you have the resources to ingest, visualize, report, and do everything on your own. We're really happy to work with you that way as well.
Maybe I'll ask a question. Has anyone ever gotten a question? I get this pretty regularly of, hey, Tyler, I need an insight. Ever got that question? And then you're like, okay, tell me more. What else do you need? That becomes a lot of the questions that happen. And then I got to go fishing for an insight. And so one of the things that we've learned with Harmonya is I want to increase the speed to insight and I want to make it easier to get there. Oftentimes when I get that question of, hey, Tyler, I need an insight, I don't even know where to begin, right? If I think about a needle in a haystack, I don't even know what haystack to start on. And so one of the things that Harmonya has been able to help us with is to point us in a direction to understand where I need to go start looking for that insight, whatever that may be. So once upon a time in Bentonville, Brandon and I we had a big meeting. We had our global nutrition team. So Coke's global nutrition team was coming into Bentonville. They were going to be meeting going and seeing the market and doing a number of things. And part of their session was around understanding what the future of the category needs to look like, how the shopper is going to change over the next couple of years. They wanted to talk about innovation. They wanted to talk about the state of the consumer today and what was happening. And they wanted to do this, call it an ideation session, right? And they wanted to throw concepts on a board and they wanted to say, hey, what do we think if we did this? Okay. And so what happened as we did that is I was sitting in the back of the room listening and I pulled up the Harmonya app and I started typing in what they were talking about, the concepts, right? This is nutrition. They were talking about protein. They were talking about orange juice. They were talking about a whole list of different things and how we start to build out the future, as well as understand the shopper today. And as we did that, it was fascinating to see how quickly I could get to information on what the concepts were that they were talking about, whether it was dietary concepts, whether it was concepts around, hey, what's the future of protein and where's the shopper going? How are they going to think about this in the future? What claims need to be on the label to make sure that it resonates with the consumer? These were all use cases that came to life. And in a matter of literally seconds, we were able to highlight the current trends, as well as start to understand some of the future state of where we believe that category specifically is headed. I partnered with Brandon to help me understand some of this and pull together a bit more after the meeting. And so he'll walk through some of what that looked like.
So the way that this started, we went into the Harmonya app. This is all based on our insights, our information about products in what we lovingly refer to as the diamond chart on a foundation of NIQ data that Tyler uses to manage his business today. So all in the context of where does he get his insights about what's taking place and think about how to drive growth for the business. This is a video. It's 25 seconds. I'll drag it out a little bit, but you can see just how easy it is to get to this depth of understanding. So the first thing we did was there's a nice little filter up at the top that says drivers. Really easy way to understand what's driving differentiated growth in a universe of products. So you'll start to see the pointer move. We click on drivers. Now we're looking at the drivers in the beverage category based on sales growth across multiple brands with multiple products contributing growth ahead of the category for a meaningful number of products with meaningful sales. So literally one click to understand, okay, what are the drivers out there? And we see protein show up in a few different places here. So that's good. I want to go deeper on protein. So we type in protein. It's honestly like Google. So we type it in, we go ahead, we start looking at what are the claims associated with products that have protein in them, and we get to this very specific articulation around protein. We have high protein formula. We have protein content, protein intake. So we start to see that these concepts are driving differentiated performance in market. Literally 25 seconds to get to a level of specificity that you would not be able to get to in a manual exercise in hours or days. We took that over to look at specific brands within the nutrition portfolio at Coke and see what are the characteristics associated with each of them. And when it comes to protein, Coke already had differentiation across Fairlife and Core Power. So we start to see which brands within their portfolio are already addressing these needs. What are consumers saying about these needs? And using that to start to guide what Coke is going to do in market with their existing portfolio from a differentiation standpoint, and where to think about the next steps for the portfolio from an innovation standpoint.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add too is while this is both two portions of the Coke portfolio, it's also really fascinating when we put competitive sets up there, right? So think about Coke versus Pepsi, right? And being able to very quickly in a Venn diagram understand what is the same and what is different. And so what we have found from the Coke company, we've done a lot of work with like our brand and marketing teams to start to be able to pull out these insights and be able to say, hey, here's what's different between Gold Peak and Pure Life, right? And here's how the consumer is thinking about it. And so for us, this has been a bit of a game-changing way for us to approach the consumer. The other thing that's really great here is Brandon talked about the tags, and you would have seen them at the top, and we talked about claims. And think about the way that how do you describe your product, and how important is that, especially in a world where e-commerce continues to grow? How do you think about how you're describing your product, and can you describe it in a way that resonates or has the right claims, tags, information that will resonate with your consumer? I'll give one other insight that we found, which was really interesting. So if you remember the slide that had the hierarchy, the standard hierarchy coming down on one side and the colors on the other side. So we were looking at Powerade, and we were comparing it to Gatorade. And in a traditional hierarchy, you would look at it around, hey, here's the category, here's the package, here's the flavor, here's this information, right? And you might even get down to the granularity of understanding what's the sodium content, what electrolytes, whatever else. But one of the things that we found is that Powerade resonated with the word metabolism, and that kept coming up over and over again as a differentiator relative to Gatorade, right? For us in our standard hierarchy, if somebody came and asked me the question of, hey, I need you to go find what is different between Powerade and Gatorade, I would never land on the spot of its metabolism. That is a differentiator of how consumers are talking about or thinking about Powerade versus Gatorade. And so for us, what it allows us to do is have differentiated insights that I can go back and work both with our merchants, both with our internal teams, to start to have conversations about products that I could never, ever imagine having prior to that. So that's just where we've been. This is the journey that we've been on. But as we go through and think about what's next in the Harmonya journey in partnership with Coca-Cola, is think about custom attribution. So think about, we all have our standard hierarchies, but what are the pieces that we're missing that we don't describe? Metabolism as an example. Can I go pull all the items that resonate with metabolism out of beverage and look at how those are performing relative to the category? Are there opportunities in that space? And also predicting your current attribution is also a piece that we're working on. So that's one piece. The next piece that we're going to think about is e-com acceleration. Think about search engine optimization. And how do you think about guiding the consumer through the description of the product? And how do we think about, hey, I'm looking for a protein energy drink, right? That might be two different tags that don't exist today on one of Coke's products, but it may very well resonate with the consumer. And we need to be thinking about how we can draw that out from an e-com perspective. And then the next one, we think about innovation. I talked a little bit about our nutrition team and how we think about the future of a category, the current, but then also the future. One of the things that, and Brandon highlighted, is being able to click on the drivers and understand exactly what is driving or draining the category, right? You can do both sides. But being able to highlight flavors or other types of innovation that we want to go after, but we want to see those trends earlier and earlier in the marketplace. And so Harmonya helps us unlock that capability. And then two more. The next one is on the marketing side. I'm going to let Brandon talk about that. I'm an analyst. I am not a marketer. So he's got some ways that he's thinking about the next two.
So we've been working very closely with not just Tyler, but other folks around the Coke system to start to incorporate this into how they're thinking about messaging existing products, but also as they bring new products to market. What's the right way to articulate the proposition in ways that are resonating with consumers and shoppers today? And lastly, from a media standpoint, I think all of us recognize the opportunity with the retail media networks. There's a lot of emphasis on that today. When it comes to how we're able to use data to better target our shoppers and consumers, we're stuck with what's there in the data today from a product standpoint. So we know the categories, we know the brands and the manufacturers. So if we know that a person buys 10 products, we know a couple things about them. If we know 10 things about those products that are more consumer-centric, the flavors, the claims, the benefits, and start to see those broader themes that people are gravitating towards, we have really interesting new ways to activate against those retail media networks where they have that closed loop system of knowing the person, knowing where they are, knowing information about them, and knowing a lot about what they purchase. Not just the specific products, but the themes, the concepts that are important to them, which we can use in the creation of audiences, as well as in the messaging.
Yeah, and I'll just close with this, that again, our goal is to close the gap between our resources and data, right? And we want to be faster to finding the insights for our customers, for our internal team so that we can drive growth. And Harmonia has been able to help unlock a lot of that opportunity to close, for my team, the gap of being able to be faster when I get the question of, hey, Tyler, I need an insight.
Thank you, Tyler.